In the not-so-distant future, we find elderly billionaire and philanthropist Steve Battier arriving at R.P.G. He meets a specialist named Mr. Chan who reveals an intriguing proposition. For a substantial sum of money, the company can restore their youth by transferring their accumulated neural information to a new brain and body. However, there's a significant catch: the original owner of the young brain must pass away. Unperturbed, Steve, the aging humanitarian, considers the offer. Chan further explains that the rejuvenated body with an older brain will only last for 10 hours. The company invites Steve and 9 other wealthy seniors to partake in a unique game. For a brief but thrilling 10-hour span, they will experience a fresh lease on life, but only one will emerge from the game alive. The participants, all terminally ill, agree to the adventure, as they have nothing to lose. Though Steve hesitates initially, he ultimately accepts the deal, realizing that his days are numbered due to unbearable pain from even the slightest movement. Later, Steve informs Chan about his impending demise, and they agree to continue their conversation after the game. Steve selects the body of a handsome young man and sits in one of the special chairs for participants. The game begins, and Steve wakes up in his new youthful body amidst debris, lying on the grass. He meets a girl in a white dress, both of them lacking memories, unaware they now inhabit elderly minds. They encounter a guy in denim, a girl with a stick, and a curly-haired guy, followed by a blonde individual. Soon, they meet other players: a Chinese guy, an Asian girl, a dark-skinned girl, and another blonde. None of them can fathom how they got there or what's happening. The youthful participants explore the ruins in search of clues when Mr. Chan appears as a hologram in one of the rooms, introducing himself as the game master. He proceeds to explain the situation and reveals the motionless holograms of elderly individuals whose brains have been transplanted into their youthful bodies. Among the participants in this bizarre scenario are an actress, a singer, an African dictator, a lesbian activist, a Russian spy, a football player, a playboy, a Chinese oligarch, a princess from a northern European country, and the renowned humanitarian Steve. Each elderly individual is accompanied by a biography detailing their life story. Mr. Chan then drops a chilling bombshell. Every hour, one participant must meet their demise, or the game will select a victim at random. To claim the life of another, a player must correctly identify whose brain is inside the victim's body and touch the corresponding hologram of the deceased. However, making an incorrect choice means the killer will meet their demise. Initially, the youthful participants find it hard to believe what they've just heard. Yet, as they peruse the biographies, each one begins to recognize themselves. They choose to keep this knowledge to themselves, as no one wants to become the first victim. As tension escalates, suspicion and aggression among the young participants increase. The curly-haired guy takes the initiative, hoping to find a way out of the game with its ruthless rules. The others follow suit but quickly discover that the ruins are surrounded by a high-voltage fence, rendering escape impossible. The group deliberates on the information they've gathered and attempts to formulate a plan. Despite an undercurrent of passive aggressiveness, the participant with Steve's brain refuses to believe that any of them are capable of murder. He suggests that they split up for the remainder of the first hour. A girl in a white dress decides to follow Steve. In their solitude, she confides in him, admitting that she has no desire to take anyone's life. Steve shares her sentiment, expressing a preference to be the one sacrificed instead. Her heart is touched by his selflessness. For the sake of their mutual safety, the young participants decide to keep their personal information hidden, even from one another. Nevertheless, they relish the experience of inhabiting their youthful bodies, with one couple sharing a passionate kiss. Meanwhile, the young blonde man takes a stone and sharpens it into a makeshift weapon. Enviously, he watches as the blonde girl seduces the curly-haired guy. They, too, don't miss the opportunity to exploit their charming new bodies. As the Asian and dark-skinned girls approach the electric fence, they engage in a conversation about their past loves. Their discussion leads to a kiss, but abruptly, the dark-skinned girl pushes her friend away. She expresses suspicion that the Asian girl might not be a woman at all, but rather an elderly man who has chosen a female body. Tensions rise, and the dark-skinned girl pushes the Asian girl against the fence, resulting in her instant death from an electric shock. The killer, deliberately calling for help and checking the time, makes a swift escape. However, this horrifying scene is witnessed by Steve and his girlfriend, who are kissing in the bushes. The dark-skinned girl returns to the hologram room and correctly identifies her victim, a famous football player with unconventional sexual preferences. She believes that only someone of that sort would wish to inhabit a female body. All the while, the Chinese man secretly observes the events. After gathering in the hall, the killer pretends to have no connection to the crime. The young participants wonder if the game itself caused the Asian girl's death, but they can't find a definitive answer and disperse. In the bushes, the dark-skinned girl allies with a girl holding a stick, unaware of her involvement in the first murder. Meanwhile, the brutalized blonde man attacks the blonde girl with a sharpened stone. The denim jacket guy and the curly-haired guy try to intervene, but the blonde girl won't reveal whose mind she has. The blonde man takes her to the hologram room for a harsh interrogation, even breaking her hand and cutting her arm. Everyone rushes back to the room, and the blonde girl admits she's an actress, but the killer has made a mistaken choice. His victim was a singer, not the actress he believed her to be. In this segment of the story, the macabre game continues its cruel twists. One participant meets a fiery end, causing their holographic presence to vanish into thin air. Steve and his girlfriend, having forged a deep connection, opt to distance themselves from the rest of the group. They seek solace in a hidden spot within the bushes, where their intimacy takes center stage. However, as Steve succumbs to slumber, his girlfriend seizes the opportunity to probe into his true identity, harboring the hope of using any compromising information to her advantage. During a brief interlude, Steve awakens briefly in the real world, engaging in a conversation with Mr. Chan, who tantalizingly dangles the promise of eternal youth should Steve emerge victorious in this sinister game. Meanwhile, a girl in a pristine white dress plots to bring about Steve's demise using a menacing stick. Her sinister plan is disrupted when Steve awakens suddenly. He takes this chance to unravel the grim reality of their actions, that by killing one another, they are effectively extinguishing the lives of young individuals inhabiting these very bodies. Unfortunately, his words fall on deaf ears as the girl launches an attack on Steve with her weapon, leading to a dreadful mishap. Amidst the chaos, a dark-skinned girl initially comforts the girl with the stick, leading to a passionate embrace that takes a violent turn. Steve, after his girlfriend's death, makes a strategic move in the hologram room and later vows vengeance against the dark-skinned girl. She flees to the hologram room, facing accusations from the perceptive Chinese man. He forcefully propelled the girl from an elevated position, resulting in her untimely demise. Surprisingly, she's not an actress as believed. The Chinese man selects a hologram, revealing a famous lesbian activist. Meanwhile, the curly-haired and denim-clad individuals plot a calculated investigation into the remaining elderly participants' backgrounds with sinister intent. After reviewing the information once more, they made a tough call. The young man who shared Steve's thoughts, the one with a strong sense of compassion, became their target for elimination. Meanwhile, the girl who had recently survived a near strangulation attempted to reason with Steve. She expressed her unwillingness to turn into a murderer for the sake of her survival. However, Steve's trust in his rivals had completely evaporated. Amidst this tension, they noticed a terrified Chinese man attempting to scale a tree to escape over a fence. Steve assumed it was a futile effort and threw a stone over the fence to test it, only for it to instantly bounce back due to the high voltage. Perplexed, the Chinese man returned to the ground, wondering why Steve had spared him from certain death. Just then, two individuals, one with curly hair and the other in a denim jacket, approached the fence. Witnessing Steve's act of mercy towards the Chinese man, doubts about his true nature faded away, leading them to believe he was the compassionate one. Consequently, the decision to kill him seemed like a safe bet. However, Steve raised a crucial point. No one knew whether the game would continue to be lethal if everyone chose not to kill anymore. He proposed a ceasefire, offering to lay down his weapons for an hour to see what would unfold. Everyone else agreed, and they calmly proceeded to a nearby pool. Here, Steve recounted his awakening in the real world and emphasized that this was not merely a game but actual life and death. He clarified that he had no desire to harm the actress but had to defend himself. In the meantime, amidst the ruins, a dark-skinned girl briefly regained her senses. Her hologram reappeared in the room. Unfortunately, the hour passed, and the game claimed her life. As the other players sat by the pool, unaware of the tragedy, chaos resumed, and the desire to kill resurfaced. The Chinese man menaced the last surviving girl, who fled in terror to seek refuge in the ruins. There, she stumbled upon an unexpected bonus, akin to a video game. The Chinese man relentlessly searched for her, convinced she was the princess of a northern European country. She held a newfound gun in her hands but remained uncertain of his true identity, rendering her unable to end his life outright. Instead, she decided to shoot him in the leg and interrogate him, wary of the dire consequences of touching the wrong hologram. Realizing the stakes, she resolved to eliminate Steve first. The Chinese man ascended to the building's rooftop and called out to the girl who had managed to escape outside. Desperation drove him to shout that his true identity would forever remain a mystery, and he leapt. Confused, the girl made her way to the hologram room's entrance but was suddenly knocked down by the guy in the denim jacket. He seized the gun from her trembling hands and pointed it in her direction. In a surprising twist, the hologram of the elderly Chinese oligarch disappears, revealing a genuinely Chinese young man. The man in the denim jacket surprises everyone by making an intimate proposition instead of being hostile. She recognizes him as a playboy, rejects his advances, and disarms his pistol, striking him with a rebar. Steve and a curly-haired man enter the room, finding the gun empty. The curly-haired man suggests a sinister plan to eliminate Steve and the denim-clad man or engage in a dangerous game of Russian roulette. The girl stands her ground, refusing to give up the bullets, leading Steve to quickly leave. The playboy urges her to stay until the end, serenading her and sharing a final jest. Steve disposes of the gun and keeps the curly-haired man at bay. Steve suspects the curly-haired man is a Russian spy and tries to subtly probe him. They decide to check on the others and return to the hologram room, revealing the gun is empty, setting the stage for a tense standoff. Steve, unable to endure the playboy's torment, extends a helping hand. Yet, the playboy adamantly maintains that all is well, and he departs with a smile. The girl chooses the playboy hologram and exits the room. Conversely, the curly-haired man informs Steve of his impending return after concluding his encounter with the girl. However, as he moves toward the exit, Steve retrieves a shard of the bottle from his pocket and decisively severs the spy's throat. The startling revelation is made: he was indeed a Russian spy. Now, only he and the princess remain. Steve approaches her cautiously, emphasizing their shared goodness and the avoidance of bloodshed. He offers to spend their remaining time together, savoring life's pleasures. He kisses her tenderly and gently takes the rebar from her grasp. In an abrupt and shocking twist, he ends her life with the same bottle fragment. She breathes her last, and Steve returns to reality. Seeking eternal youth, Steve inquires with Mr. Chan about the cost. The game master feigns contemplation but swiftly quotes an exorbitant price for the service. Without hesitation, Steve transfers the funds. Afterward, he glimpses himself in his old attire and contentedly enters his car. Under a hypnotic trance, Steve firmly believes in his newfound youth and attractiveness. However, the harsh reality remains: he remains an aging man, forever ensnared in the illusion of his desires.